session of Student Scholar Days. I'm Dr. Kim Kelso. I have the privilege of working with Raul Madril, Nick Spencer, Ian Wingstrom. This is a continuation of a study that we actually started last fall, and they were courageous enough and maybe crazy enough to say, yes, we will continue with this study this spring. So I applaud their persistence, and thank you for your attention. I'm going to let them take over. I'm going to leave, and now yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for your attendance this afternoon. As Dr. Kelso mentioned, we did our research on stereotype threat, and now you're probably wondering what stereotype threat is. Stereotype threat is a given situation when an individual feels at risk of confirming a negative stereotype for their given group. For example, a norm in our society is science is a male-oriented domain and nursing is a female-oriented domain. So our example is women do not perform well in science and men do not perform well in nursing. Stereotype threat is something that can be measured through space between two individuals, such as chair placement between them. You can measure the distance between them and see how comfortable they are interacting with one another. Stereotype threat is something that could be conscious or unconscious, so an individual they could be aware or may not be unaware of that they may confirm a negative stereotype. The original study was conducted by Goff, Steele, and Davies in 2008. This was done at Stanford University. Their question was, does stereotype threat have an impact on racial distancing behavior? They had 55 white male Stanford University undergrads. Their design was a 2x2 between subjects design. They had two independent variables, conversation topic. Their two topics were love and relationship and racial profiling. The other independent variable was learning goal, whether they received the learning goal or not, and that means they were told to take it as a learning experience or not take it as a learning experience. The dependent variable was chair placement and the distance between the two individuals. They found that participants sat significantly farther away for racial profiling than love and relationships when the learning goal was absent. However, when the learning goal was present, they found that participants sat closer for love and relationships and farther away for racial profiling. Now I'm going to share with you guys replication and why it is an important step in research. Replication, like I said, it is an important step, but it is only occasionally used. Replication reduces the likelihood of previous research finding significance due to a biased sample. For example, if you just have Caucasian individuals as your participants, you want to diversify the group and have Hispanic, African American, Asian, for example. Present findings may also support or deny previous research results, and they also may find another outcome that the original study did not find. Part of the reproducibility project, as Dr. Kelso mentioned, that she was a part of last year, as well as Emily Wright, Nick Spencer, and Ashley Walsh. They had 100 Adams State University undergrads, and their design was the same as the original study conducted at Stanford. They did the same procedure and all that. They found no significant interaction between conversation topic and learning goal. However, they did find a significant main effect for conversation topic across white, Hispanic, Latino, and African American groups. They found that across all three of those groups, participants sat significantly farther away for love and relationships than racial profiling. And after Nick finished his research last year, he came to Ian and I because he knew we were interested in conducting research, and he said that he wanted to continue the research but do it with our own little twist. So we came up with the stereotype threat extended sexual orientation because that research has not been produced. So we hypothesized that participants would sit significantly farther away if they're heterosexual and they knew that they're having a face-to-face interaction with a homosexual male about same-sex marriage. And now I'm going to pass it on to Ian Wingstrom, who is going to tell you guys the method section and our procedure that we followed for our research.
So, in regards to the method section of the study, we ran approximately 101 undergraduate males, with white males being the majority, namely at 52. However, we had to exclude 17 due to their suspicion of the nature of the study. In addition, we ran a 2x2 design with 2 conversation topics, either same-sex marriage or politics, along with the presence or absence of a learning goal. Altogether, what we were measuring was the distance between the Confederate's chair and the placement of the participant's chair by the participant himself. During the course of the study, we provided 2 materials to the participants. One was the thought listing task. The thought listing task was an assignment where participants had about 5 minutes to write down any thoughts, feelings, or emotions they were currently experiencing at that time. Moreover, we also provided the Explicit Stereotype Threat Scale, or ESTS. The ESTS is an assignment where participants would answer 7 questions on a Likert scale of 1 to 7, and would answer such questions as, I worry that my conversation partner will stereotype me as homophobic because of my sexual orientation. Now, when it comes to the procedure, it was fairly simple. Myself, Nick, or Raul would wait outside the study room with some consent forms and a brown plastic bag full of conversation topics. Once the participant would arrive, we would text our Confederate Vince in the psychology office to come down to pretend to be a participant in the study. Once he would arrive, we would have both participants sign some consent forms, followed by having them pick out some conversation topics out of the brown plastic bag, while emphasizing that it had to be the same conversation topic before talking about it in the study. Now, depending on how the participant was randomly assigned, we would offer a learning goal. And the learning goal is just a little paragraph we would read to kind of help reinforce the deception of the study, and would say such things as, take this as an opportunity to learn more about, say, politics. Next, once participants would enter the room, we would have Vince lead it, because in the middle of the room was a chair, and Vince would place his cheetah scarf and backpack on the chair, and on the backpack was a gay pride button. I would then instruct the participant from across the room to pull up a chair for a comfortable conversation with his partner. Next, Vince would ask me if he could use the restroom, and then I would allow him to leave. Once he left the room, that was his participation for the remainder of the study. Next, the participant would fill out a demographics form, and then I would prepare some other materials for him. The first one would then be the thought listing task. Once I handed him the thought listing task, I would then say I have to step out of the room for a second, and I would be right back. I left the room and would wait out there for about 5 minutes, and then head back into the room. Once back in the room, I would then provide the ESTS form. Once I provide the ESTS form, I would explain, I'm going to go look for your partner, I'll be right back. Then I would leave the room again, wait for another 5 minutes or so, then head back into the room. Once I headed back into the room, I would say, this is the end, and then fully debrief the participant, followed by handing him his extra credit form, and he would be on his way. Once the participant would leave, I'd quickly grab the backpack and scarf and run it back to Vince in the psychology office before the next participant arrived. And then I'd head back to the room, and I would measure the distance between the chairs, and then set up the room for the next participant by putting the participant's chair back into its original position, followed by getting the next materials ready for the next participant. So when you entered the study room, this is what you would see. Right here in the middle of the floor is the Confederate's chair where Vince would place his scarf and backpack, and across the room is just the 2 chairs that the participant would pull up for so that he could engage in the conversation topic with Vince. And next we have Nicholas Spencer talking about the results of the study.
All right. Our results included analyzing the data with the 2x2 ANOVA. Unfortunately, the interaction between conversation topic and learning outcome failed to reach significance, but fortunately, the main effect for learning outcomes showed marginal significance. Specifically what this means, regardless of topic, same-sex marriage or politics, the learning outcome was a predictor of distance. When learning outcomes were present, participants sat closer, on average 46 inches from the Confederate's possessions. Excuse me. When learning outcomes were not present, participants sat further away, on average 52 inches from the Confederate's possessions. We did an additional analysis of ethnicity, analyzing the main effect of ethnicity. Found significant results when comparing Hispanic or Latino to Black or African American participants. Hispanics or Latinos sat closer on average at 43.37 inches compared to Black or African Americans at 60.93 inches, basically 61 inches. By looking at the following graphs, you can see a visual representation of the distance. We provided a graph to demonstrate the difference in ethnicity Here you can see all the ethnicities included in our study on your right. In addition, we have provided a graph to represent the difference learning outcomes had on distance. Once again, regardless of topic, learning outcomes were a predictor of the average distance. I'm sure by now you are all wondering who is the Confederate and what does he look like. Well, his name is Vince Alcon, and he was a tremendous addition to our team. So please take a moment to soak in the radiance that is Vince. I would also like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the Campus Impact Fund. Without their assistance in paying Vince for his participation, we may not have had the funds to carry out this project. So thank you to Beth Streeter, her committee, and the recently established Campus Impact Fund. And with that, let's move on to our discussion. The interaction between conversation topic and learning outcomes suggests neither variables had a significant influence on one another, an unfortunate result, but important nonetheless. This could mean a number of things. We may need to change our research design and edit a few steps to ensure the deception goes off without a hitch. It could also reflect the population of Adams State or the age group that we examined. Other possible extraneous variables may have been present, but it is difficult to speculate. But please remember, the learning outcomes did affect the distance regardless of topic. When a participant's perspective shifts from an open-ended conversation to a conversation with intellectual goals, the participant is more likely to feel comfortable and thus willing to sit closer. Learning goals and other tools alike have shown the same response in similar and non-similar situations. As with last year's research, where Dr. Kelso and myself were involved, we saw the same outcome. The learning goal mediated the distance regardless of topic. To recap, this analysis was marginally significant. And when discussing the main effect of ethnicity, we found Hispanics or Latinos sat closer than white, non-Hispanic, Asian or Pacific Islander, and Black or African Americans. Black or African Americans sat furthest away than all other ethnicities. There could be a number of explanations for this difference. First, with a universal or general perspective, this could be the result of a cultural influence. The way different ethnicities discuss tense or emotionally difficult topics could be resulted from their own cultures. For example, Hispanics or Latinos could find it more comfortable to be closer and intimate, whereas Black or African Americans may be comfortable with a bit more distance. Whatever the true nature, the difference exists. I would also like to mention that we saw the same trend in last year's research. And that is our presentation, and thank you for attending.